Hi, my name's Suzanne Schubert and I'm a dietitian with Horizon Health, and today we're going to make a whipped cottage cheese dip. This is a great high protein, healthy alternative to traditional ranch dip, and you can serve it with whole grain crackers or even fresh vegetables for a healthy snack. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 2 cups of 2% fat cottage cheese to a food processor. Right. All right. There's 1. All right. Got 2 cups there. All right. And then we're going to add the juice of 1 medium lemon. Cut that in half and use my juicer. Oops. Go ahead and add that straight to the food processor. All right. Okay, and then we're going to add a teaspoon of onion powder. And a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then we're going to go ahead and blend all of these ingredients until they're smooth. If you have to stop while you're blending to scrape down the sides, you can. I would recommend just kind of having a spatula ready to go. Okay, and I'm just gonna take a look at it and see where we're at. Looks like a little bit of my garlic powder needs to be mixed in a little better. Go ahead and scrape down the sides a little bit. All right, we're almost there. It's almost ready. All right, let's see. That looks pretty good to me. All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and remove the blade from the center. Have the food processor here. Scrape that cottage cheese off it. Okay, get rid of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the cottage cheese to a small bowl. Need a little bit more room to mix stuff in. All right, so you see how the cottage cheese has a great smooth texture. You've gotten rid of all of the curds. It already smells like ranch dip actually to me too. It smells really good. All right, so the next step, move that out of the way, we're gonna add in about a half a teaspoon of salt. So we're going to sprinkle that on top. And about a pinch of black pepper. And you can of course add more to taste. And again, I love black pepper, so I tend to add a lot of extra most of the time. Okay, and then I'm going to mince about 2 tablespoons worth of fresh parsley, 2 tablespoons worth of fresh chives, and then 2 tablespoons of fresh dill. If you don't have fresh herbs at home or you prefer to use dried, you can substitute 2 teaspoons of each for dried instead of the fresh. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and chop my parsley. Move this out of the way. This bowl is probably a little small. We are gonna stir this in, and this is probably a little tight. So you might wanna use a larger bowl than I just did. Okay. Trim our chives. Okay. Put our chives in there. Got fresh dill. And I love the smell of fresh dill. It smells so good. And really with the herbs, this is to your preference too. You can add less or more. The recipe just calls for 2 tablespoons each. Okay, rinse my fingers off again here. All right, let's see if I can get this mixed in. Okay, and you can just take a spoon or even a spatula and mix all of this in. It looks really pretty with all the green fresh herbs. And you could also add the herbs if you wanted to the blender. It just is gonna give your dip a kind of a green tint to it, kind of like green goddess dressing if you've ever had that before. So, but it's still gonna taste just as good, just the color, of course, will be a little different. All right, we have that blended in. I didn't make too big of a mess there, so that's good. All right. And then if you want to dress it up, I mean, you could add a little bit of extra ground pepper on the top. Again, you could kind of give it a little taste and see if it needs a little bit more salt. Okay. And then I like to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on the top. It gives it a pretty kind of look. Okay. All right. All right, so adding milk to the recipe is optional. So if you do want to thin out the dip a little bit, you can add, I would start with about a tablespoon of milk in the food processor, and then you can add up to about 3 tablespoons of milk if needed to thin out the dip. All right, enjoy.